By definition, marriage is the legally or formally recognized union of two people as partners in a personal relationship. MsConceptions is taking the time to highlight what marriage looks like in the Black and Brown community.
Hey, okay. So, the first question is, who were we before we met our spouse? You first.
I didn't want to go first. Who was I before I met my spouse? I was Sheri Marcellus, and I had been out of school for at least a year at this point, working at an entry-level job at CareSource, and really just in the midst of, I guess, trying to find my way in life. I had only been at home. I had only moved back home. I've only been back home for about a year, so it was really just working this entry-level job just to get some money and figuring out my next chapter in life.
Getting ready to graduate from Central.
Wow, Nick the Kappa.
Getting ready to go on to the next stage in my life. I had just gotten out of a relationship, and I didn't know what to expect when I met Sheri.
Oh yeah, I was single. Good and single.
Yeah.
Hadn't had a relationship in over like 2 years, but anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. How did you know that your spouse was the one for you?
4 months into our relationship, and everything about Sheri made me better from when I had graduated and when I had first met her. She just made me a better person, and I really enjoyed being around her. And I knew that this relationship was different than all of my previous relationships.
How did you know that your spouse was the one for you? I guess to me, this is like 2 levels. So how did I know that Nick was the one for me as if I wanted to be in a committed relationship with him? That probably started early on. Probably within like the first month or 2 of meeting him, because we were spending like every single day with each other, and I wasn't tired of him yet and he wasn't tired of me, so I definitely felt like, okay, I can be in a relationship with this guy. When it came to this is the one for me, like getting married wise, probably after a year of us dating, I was just like, okay, like I still like him around. My family likes him being around. I don't see myself with anybody else at this point. So yeah, I would say probably like a year, because I feel like after that, I think by that time he had been around. He's met all my family, all my extended family, all of my friends. He had even went to one of my homecomings with him. And it's like you feel like once your significant other is able to get through all of those like events or greetings, I guess, then that goes to show like, okay, this person can stay around for a while, because now at this point they've really seen who I am, and everybody who knows me prior to this relationship is vibing with him too. So yeah, I would probably say about a year.
Everybody thought I should keep you around too, just in case you were running.
Thanks. I'm glad they like me.
Yeah.
I hope they still do. They don't. They're bad.
Okay. What do you think prepared you for marriage? And how would you say that preparation has worked in your marriage? It's your turn.
I guess I didn't have like any type of like course or anything to prepare me for marriage. I mean, I guess the examples I had around me were, of course, my parents. Then I had my grandparents. Then I had just other people who were married, whether it's friends, parents, or just close friends of the family. And out of those different relationships, I was able to pick and choose, or at least identify what I liked and what I didn't like. How it was really more of like what I don't want to be, which can sound bad, but it was really more of what I don't want to be. But then there were also other relationships, especially with my grandparents having been together for like 65 years. I was also able to see like what does longevity in a relationship looks like, and how two people can coexist with each other. After the honeymoon phase and after the kids phase, you kind of see like what does the mature part of or matured phase of marriage looks like. So I would say, yeah. Has that preparation helped me so far? Yes. I would say yes overall, because at the end of the day, you can look at examples around you, but you still have to apply it in your situation. So what you observe it's not so cookie cutter that you can take that exact same reaction, exact same situation, and apply it to your marriage. And then you also have to consider the individuals. I'm not the person I was observing, or Nick is not the husband I was observing when I was looking at these other marriages. But I do feel like through the pros and cons, or the good things and bad things, it's helping me. I can't say it's helped me, because we're still navigating the ups and downs of marriage now. So that was my long answer. Sorry.
I guess mine is the exact opposite. I told you when we first got married, like, I think I know how to be a husband and a father because of the absence of that in my life. So I knew going into marriage what I didn't want the outcome to be. Mm-hmm. And I focused a lot on that and doing the opposite of what I saw. Mm-hmm. And in preparation for marriage, like you said, it helps, but you aren't my mother and I'm not my father, and the same things apply, like you said. It prepares you, it helps. It gives you a guideline, a basis, but yeah, each relationship is different. And quite honestly, going into this relationship, all of the other relationships before this, I went about them wrong as well. So I use those as preparation as well. Just going into this relationship, I did a lot of self-reflecting and knowing that a lot of my previous relationships were failures because of my own inadequacies. So I took that into consideration in moving forward in marriage and continuing to strive to be a better person and a better husband. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So, we all know that marriage is different when you enter into it and you're committed to seeing it through. We also know that there are bad days in marriages. On days that you may not like each other, how do you handle conflict in your marriage?
Okay. On most days in conflict, we try to handle them the best way we can. Sometimes that's communicating right away, talking it out, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's giving each other the space that they require, and letting them. On bad days, we just feed off each other and do what we need to do to get through it.
I agree. I would say we try to feed off each other in a good way, not like, oh, if he's pissed, I'm going to be even more pissed. Or we do have our moments where we want to be slightly petty, but I feel that we both know what taking it too far can do. So we never want to intentionally hurt each other. But we also still want to stay true to how we feel. But then I also personally realized that even staying true to how I feel isn't always worth, it. I don't need to vocalize it every single time. I typically like to weigh the situation and say, okay, sure, you're feeling this way, but is it something so pertinent that you have to bring it up right now? Is it one of your like no-goes, like deal breakers where you have to, discuss it? Or is it one of those where you can just brush it off and say, you know what, maybe I'm tripping, or you be like, you know what, he tripping, I'm gonna give him his space, and then we'll talk about it, we'll iron it out then. Or not iron it out at all, because maybe it's just something that we don't really feel needs to be discussed. It can be cool. But so basically it's almost like, is it worth the battle? Or like
Choosing
they say, pick and choose your battles. Sometimes it's not even worth it. Sometimes it's just, every dispute, every conflict is not really worth a true iron out, what they say, unpacking and all of that stuff. Sometimes it's just like, you know what, you're off, we're off, and let's just pick it up a new day. And one thing I do really admire and commend us for is that we always try to not go more than 24 hours being upset with each other. Or, if we can, we try to settle it before we go to bed. Mm-hmm. And even if it's something that happened in the evening or that day, like if we don't get to it that evening, we typically resolve it by lunch the next day. Like, we can't go all the next day still mad at each other. So,
and then another thing is, like, when you have a disagreement, setting ground rules and guidelines for disagreements. Like, mm-hmm. we don't call each other out of their name. We try not to yell. So,
and we definitely try not to curse at each other.
Yes.
Like, we both can curse, but not at somebody, because that can just take it to a whole nother.
Right. It's ineffective communication. So, I mean, when having a disagreement, is just the best thing to do is just try to communicate effectively, even through those disagreements. Were we on 5?
Yeah, I think it's
what does love mean to you? Explain.
Love to me is faithfulness, loyalty, and understanding. I say faithfulness because if you have vowed to commit yourself to somebody, then you're always going to be faithful to them. You're always going to be committed to them. You won't step outside and develop relationships with somebody else. Loyalty is, I feel like somebody can be faithful to you, but they're not necessarily loyal to you. And how I think of this is that if there's a situation where I'm in conflict with somebody else, or he's in conflict with somebody else, for the most 99.9%, like I was saying, I think there's a difference between loyalty and faithfulness, because loyalty to me is if I'm going to bat for him, or if I'm in conflict with somebody else, and he happens to be in the middle of it or something like that, 99.9% of the time, I'm always going to support him. I may not agree with him, but I'm definitely going to support him. I'm definitely going to be on his side. I'm definitely not just going to let somebody just dog him out. Even if I don't agree with him, I'm not just going to let somebody and say, yeah, because Nick is this, and this, and this, and this, because he did this, and this, and this. And I can, I'd be like, well, I agree. However, you're not just going to dog my husband in front of me. That's what we're not going to do. You can be upset with him, but you're not going to drag him through the mud. So that's what I mean by loyalty. It's just always sticking up for that person. Even when they're wrong, like, you can still support them and still tell them when they're wrong. But definitely don't, let somebody talk down to me or disrespect me and let it slide. Understanding is basically accepting somebody, flaws and all, accepting them for all of the different phases and chapters that they're going to be in their life. Because to me, that's true love. That's something that God gives to us as well. We've all had our different challenges and, hills and valleys. And even through those hills and valleys, we may have changed who we are, but He always gives us grace. And He's always understanding, because if He wasn't understanding, we wouldn't be here. So I think understanding is key when it comes to love. Because to me, once you understand somebody, typically you accept them. So that's my definition of love.
To me, love is commitment and partnership, and somebody I can grow old with. Somebody who compliments me, and Sheri is all of those things. She is committed to me and our family in every way. And as I started this off with, she makes me a better person. Just her being with me has elevated me as a man, and I admire that level of support that she gives me on a daily basis, and for our family. She is definitely the backbone here. So, and I appreciate her. Commitment. She has no issues with commitment. I've known that with her since the moment I met her. Like, when she's into something, she is in it 100%. And that is
losing weight.
That's one of her strong points.
My seasons of that.
And I love her to death. And here comes our son Avery.
It's empty.
What's empty?
My bag.
Okay, mommy and daddy are doing something. Okay, love you. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. So, love to me is her as a whole, wrapped into one thing. And, yeah.
Just trying to make sure she get my angle.
What are your spouse's love languages, and do you respond to their love languages? Explain.
Love languages, from what I can remember, because I didn't actually read the book or anything or take a formal test, but based on what I can recall, out of the 5 love languages, Nick's love language is affection.
Physical touch.
Well, physical touch. Mm-hmm. Words of affirmation, and gifts. Now, which ones do I respond to? Gifts. Yeah. The other ones I do struggle with, because me personally, that's not my love language. I've never been in a relationship, or just even in my personal family. Those are probably none of our love languages. So therefore I don't know how to respond or conduct those, but I do try my best to give that to him. Especially with words of affirmation, but I have my own way of affirmation. It's not the I love you, I love you, I love you. My words of affirmation is usually how I display my loyalty to him, or how when he has an issue or when he has a problem, giving him encouragement and things like that. Just because of the nature of the type of person I am, I'm a worker bee type of person. And usually worker bees don't really make room for what they say, loving antidotes and things like that. We show our love through the work that we do. So that's why gifts is probably the best one I respond to, because you know, especially earlier in our relationship, I was definitely like, if I would see something that Nick want, or I'm like, oh, Nick would probably love that. Like, I'll just buy it and get it for him, because that's my way of just acknowledging the type of person that he is. But I'm not a gift giver. I'm not a person that would like, I show my love through gifts, because I don't believe in, I mean, you can spoil people, but I guess I don't use gifts as a replacement for other things. That's not what I'm doing when I buy gifts. That's just my way of showing my love to him, is that I was thinking about you. So.
Sheri's love languages are, I would say, words of affirmation, acts of service, and there's one other. I can't recall.
I think it's time.
Quality time. That's the other one. Yeah. So quality time is I guess, yeah, quality time is pretty big for her. She appreciates. Hi, Avery. She appreciates the quality time.
Go throw it away.
Even if that's just sitting on the couch and binge watching TV, that could be quality time to her.
Yeah.
Words of affirmation. I oftentimes try to respond to that as well. I tell her she's beautiful all the time. Because she is, not just because I know that's her love language. The one that I tried my hardest to achieve is the act of service, because I know as a wife and a mother, things can get overwhelming for her at times, and I try the best that I can to lighten her load by either cooking, dealing with the boys, doing something to help take some of that off of her plate, because as a mom, you know, with two boys, they always want mommy. So I try, as you can see. So I try to do everything I can to help lighten that load for her. So, yeah.
You really think my love language is words of affirmation?
I think you respond well to it. Yeah. But I think the two main ones are quality time and acts of service.
I think words of affirmation is a love language I didn't think I needed, but I do.
Yeah.
But if you ask me, I'm like, nah, I'm all right. I don't need to hear, but I kind of do.
Everybody needs words of affirmation.
They do. You do. And I appreciate when you tell me I look beautiful. What's the next one?
Number 8.
No. Number 7.
Oh, okay.
How do you all handle accountability? For example, personal goals, marital goals, career goals, etc. Explain. So, we definitely could do
Much better.
So, I feel like Nicholas and I could do a way better job of holding each other accountable. I think the first time we ever held each other accountable, and really it was kind of one-sided, was when I wanted to take on the challenge or process of getting us to be debt-free. And really it was more so like putting a leash on Nick to say, hey, this is what we're doing, and and you really don't have an opinion. But even then, I still had to hold myself accountable. And then Nick eventually came around, and, you know, he started really understanding and getting involved when it came to, you know, personal spending. But I still feel like that was kind of like an individual thing, because we both had to understand individually what it means to, you know, be disciplined. When it comes to like personal goals, we could probably be much better. I think when we talk about our goals, we're just very suggestive and just like, oh, or, you know, kind of casual with it. Like, oh, it'll be nice to do this, or, oh, this is what I want to do. But if that person who set the goal is not really like pushing, we'll just, you know, like, oh, okay, well, that's something they wanted to do, but I'm going to let them do it on their own time. And we really don't push each other as much as we should. I don't know if it's just our personality. I just don't know if we just don't want to get on each other's nerves. And it requires for us to be, accountable and reminding ourselves to remind that person that they have a goal. But when we are in the midst of achieving a goal, like, we're very supportive of each other. Like, when I went on my whole, like, wanting to lose weight, especially after Avery, like, he was very supportive of me. When he did, like, a whole, like, spiritual fast where he only drank liquids for a month, I was very supportive of him. And just, anytime he complained or felt down about it, like, I would encourage him that way. So we could do better on accountability, but I feel like we do very well when it comes to encouraging each other to do better.
Yeah, so I think that I'm a procrastinator by nature, so my accountability is it wavers. So, but I mean, in terms of marriage, we hold each other accountable in marriage, and I think we're doing a good job of doing that. But like she said, we support each other in what we're doing. It's just, I think that at times with everything that's going on in our life, we sometimes lack the drive and determination to follow through with things. Mm-hmm. And that's where we have room for improvement, is being accountable ourselves and then holding each other accountable at the same time. So that is a great question and poses room for opportunity. Thank you.
Yes.
If you could go back and tell yourself one thing about what you thought about marriage then versus now, what would it be?
So basically, what would you tell your old self about marriage?
Yeah, I'm gonna go first on this one.
Oh.
I would tell myself.
Somebody got something to say.
I would tell myself that marriage is not all sunshine and rainbows. Some of the things that happened in the beginning of your marriage are slowly going to start trickling away. Yeah.
Kids can make things wonderful, just as wonderful and just as complicated.
Kids are a blessing, but
they can make things complicated. Yes. They expose a different side of you as well.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I mean, that TV marriage of the Cosbys that you saw ain't real. Okay?
Some of it is.
It ain't real. All marriages have their ups and downs. It is about how you work through them as a couple to get back to that up. So, yeah. It's not all that.
Well, that gives your younger self a great thing to look forward to. Anyway, yeah. I would tell my younger self that marriage is going to be exactly what you thought it was going to be. Again, because going back to my examples of marriage, to be frank, I mean, no, was my mom and dad all lovey-dovey every single day, like Leave It to Beaver? Absolutely not. But I also saw how they worked together as partners. I also saw how they never, there wasn't much of a disagreement with how they wanted us to turn out or how they wanted us to be as children. That's one thing I do take from my parents is the partnership of things. But I would tell my younger self that, marriage is exactly what it is going to be. You will find the one. You will find the one. Because back then I was like, I hope I don't have to settle for somebody that I'm just like, well, there ain't nobody else around. So you will find the one. You don't need to rush into marriage. Definitely know yourself and definitely know the person who you're with before you go into marriage. And again, I'm talking to my younger self, as you know now, it will still be the same, that marriage does not fix anything. don't get married to fix the wrongs in your relationship. Those need to already be mended or actively being worked on before you pursue marriage. Marriage is not a band-aid, nor is it a cast, nor is it anything.
And also, marriage is what you make it. Like I would tell my younger self that too. Like, what you put in it, you get out of it. So if you put garbage in it, you get garbage out. So
absolutely. And yeah, that's basically it. Because how I view marriage back then is kind of like how I view it now. That you want to make sure that whoever you marry, you feel like you guys can be friends and be partners in life. And
kids complicate things.
Close the door. I know.
Okay, we'll be out shortly.
Watch it.
And we're back.
Yeah, and we're back. It's partnership, and it was one thing I was going to say, but I think I lost it. So, yeah, marriage doesn't fix anything. You don't need to rush into it. Oh, and when it comes to the wedding, focus more on the marriage than the wedding, and
save yourself some money.
Save yourself some money. You can do a lot with a small wedding.
Right.
Trust and believe. So, I enjoyed our wedding. Really did. Couple things I probably would have changed, but you get caught up in the moment, you get excited, and we were also in wedding season where all of our friends were getting married. So, yeah. But I don't think my advice would change from what I already knew back then. The question was, do you have to be completely whole when entering into a marriage? For me, I don't think you have to necessarily be whole, because I don't think anybody is ever completely whole, especially at the age that you typically get married, like in your 20s and 30s. Like, you're still trying to figure out life. So you're never completely whole. When it comes to... Okay. You heard the sirens?
Yes.
Okay. All right, boo. We'll be out in a second. Let me start that over. Do you have to be completely whole when you enter into a marriage? I do not think you have to be completely whole, because, again, at the age that we're entering marriage, which is usually your 20s and 30s, like, you're still trying to figure out life. You're still trying to figure out who you are. Even at that time, your friend circle may change up a little bit, because everybody is going down different paths in their life. And you guys, especially like your day one, sometimes kind of fall off course, or some of your college friends, you guys don't align like you used to. And when you have those long-term relationships or long-term friendships begin to like change, it also makes you reflect and question on who you are. So naturally, you're never going to be completely whole. Now, I do feel there's some major components or major pieces of you that should be pretty solid. Like, if you're dealing with past trauma, whether it's past trauma from a bad breakup, or maybe you was in an abusive relationship, or maybe you just never was in a healthy relationship at all, or never experienced love, I do think you should allow time to really unpack that and understand how that impacted you. Because you can pass on trauma without you even knowing it. Because it's just been ingrained in who you are, and you've, depending on the type of trauma, you've kind of made it a part of your survival kit. And that survival kit is not necessarily conducive or helpful for partnering with someone else. But I do feel like you should be at least 80% solid in who you are. Because even when you get with someone, because, it's two becomes one. And even when you become a part of someone, you're not going to be completely whole, because they're going to reveal some things about you, or unveil some things about you that you weren't even aware of. And it may cause you to even be, somewhat broken in those spaces in your life. So someone could say you're not completely whole, but no, that just means it's giving me opportunity. Sorry for the noise. It's giving us as individuals and as a couple to grow together into the one that we're destined to be.
Going into marriage, do you need to be completely whole? No, but you need to be as close to that as you can. Um, sorry. Again,
Avery,
kids,
stop.
marriage, life complicates things. You don't want to. First of all, a person can't love you if you don't love yourself or know yourself. So if you're going in there completely empty, expecting for a person to fill you up and be that everything, then you're getting into marriage all on the wrong foot already. But to at least know yourself and who you are and what you're bringing to the table, that makes it a little bit easier to move forward in marriage. So no, you don't need to be completely whole, but you need to have a good idea of who you are. And for me personally, when I met Sheri, I had recently gotten out of a relationship, and I spent some time alone by myself and figured out, like I said in the beginning of this, that the reason some of those previous relationships didn't work was because of me. So, I mean, in doing that personal reflection, I was able to uncover some things about myself and figure out the necessary attributes about my life that I needed to change. And I think that is why I think that we've had a successful marriage, is because I knew what I needed not to do going into this one. So, going into this relationship. So, like I said, you got to have a good idea of what whole looks like, at least.
Yeah.
What do you do to keep from losing yourself in marriage? As a guy, to keep from losing yourself in marriage, and
Do they really lose themselves?
it can get tiring at times.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
But to keep from losing yourself in marriage, I think it's ideal to have a good support system. I think that it is crucial to have some breaking away time, some time where you go do something that you enjoy with the guys or by yourself or whatever. But you need to be able, just like you need to be able to detach from work or anything else, you need to be able to sometimes detach from marriage within reason and just have some time by yourself. I enjoy golfing, smoking cigars, drinking bourbon, things like that. I mean, all of these things are things that help me decompress, and yeah, you need to have a routine, pretty much.
So, for the woman, how do you not lose yourself in your marriage? Well, it's not as simple as going to play golf and smoking cigars. Because if you also are a mother, that's another role that you have to take on. And not to diminish the role of a father in the family dynamic, but typically the mother is the center of everything. And even with her being the center of everything, as in what she says goes and all of that stuff, you're also the center resource. Like, typically you are I don't take on all the cooking. He has taken that on because that's just the favorite. He loves to cook. I like to cook. He loves to cook. So he's taking that on.
It's my way of lightening the load.
Yes. But typically, traditionally, like, the woman does all the cooking. She does the laundry. Sometimes she does the finances. And then she does, like, the general operations of the house, like maintaining everybody's schedule, social engagements, things like that. So some on top of working. So sometimes that can just be a lot to take on. Nicholas has taken the load of cooking, which is a very big load. But I also, find myself sometimes, just because of the type of person that I am, I find myself kind of losing myself in the sense of I want to make sure that our family, as a unit, our family is going in the right direction. So I constantly find myself spiraling into thoughts about the future and where are we going to be the next 5 years, and how are the boys going to, what are the boys going to do for extracurriculars, and like I focus on a lot of things outside of myself, and it's easy to just get lost in that. But every now and then, I feel like a good way of me maintaining who I am is that I have a very close relationship with my sister. I have close relationships with my friends. And even if I'm not able to just get up and go, because of course we have kids, get up and go, have a drink with my friend, or, things like that, I still try to make sure that I connect with them, because that's my way of getting away from the house, getting away from the kids, and just having my time by myself. Nick has hobbies, but I don't necessarily have hobbies. I wasn't a sports girl, like, growing up, so I don't have, like, sports leagues to join. I was a dancer, and dancing is not, in my opinion, that easy to just, like, I'm going to take a class, and that's what I'm going to do. Like, at least here in Dayton. So I have started to gain interest into, like, fitness and weightlifting. So that's what I'm trying to do. Even though it's not at the most convenient times, like 5 a.m. in the morning, it's still something that I like to do. And it's definitely a way that I get rid of some stress. And it is, again, whether it's 5 a.m. or, on my lunch break, it's still time that I have to myself. So, but one good thing about Nick is that, he will recognize moments where I haven't been out the house or I haven't been with my friends. So when I do say, hey, my friends want to go here, is that cool? He's like, yeah, take your time, because he'll recognize that, maybe he's been out, golfing, bowling, smoking cigars, bourbon, and he realized, like, oh, Sheri hasn't been anywhere. So either he will take me out on a date, or if I say, hey, I'm gonna go to Marie's, he'll be like, just go and do you or whatever. So, I feel like you have to be proactive. You have to set aside time to yourself to, cater to yourself. I know, again, with us wanting to, be debt free and stuff, I've been really cautious about money. And then eventually, once we got into a pretty decent space, I said, let's take a break. And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to spend the money on me. If it's things I want to take, with taking care of myself, whether it's like skincare or whatever, do it. I get my nails done. That's like my treat to myself. So you just gotta be proactive with finding those things that help you out and not feeling guilty for it, because just like your kids need from you and just like your husband needs from you, you also need you too. And you shouldn't feel guilty for, taking that time away from them, because you're still you. So, and again, another way of maintaining who you are is having a partner who recognizes who you are and recognizing that you having your personal space is important as well. So, or personal time is important. So,
how do you think having children has/will impact your marriage? Well, as you can see, having children has impacted our marriage very much so. Kids are a blessing. First of all, kids are a blessing. Love them. But they do complicate things. There's only 24 hours in a day. So, yeah.